Hey everyone, my name is Rooster and welcome back to Mechabellum. Today is a day where I have a crazy game for you guys. It is not necessarily an educational one, but it certainly is a fun one. I am back on the Assault Marksman train, even though I still think it's not that great of a tech and it gets countered very hard by EMP, especially EMP hackers. That one win that you get is worth the 3 losses. Let me tell you. So, let's first have a look at my tech upgrades. I am running basically carry marksman build, but I leave one slot open for assault mode. So this is range and elite, which I think are mandatory, and then aerial specialization as well, which right now I think is also a very important tech, especially with the amount of wraiths that we are seeing, and it just does a great job into overlords as well. And then assault mode is for those games where I like to play aggressive, and I can tech my marksman to have that extra speed, that extra tankiness to basically run alongside my army and potentially also tank for my carries. So, without further ado, let's get into the game and have some fun. And here we are. So, the game that I'm going to show you is against WRAITHS, and I will be on the blue side, while WRAITHS will be on the red side. Regarding packs, I have a couple options here. I quite like, well, I think Giant Spec is probably the best one, but Speed Spec Fang Sledge is a pack that I have been enjoying a bit as well, because I like to play on the line with this pack and push into my enemy. So that is what we're going for. My opponent starts with Marksman and Mustang and has a Rhino Spec. I quite like the pack I was given. The Fangs aren't great into the Mustangs, but the Sledges certainly are, and the Fangs are going to be great later on, although if my opponent keeps building into Mustang, I might have some trouble. We'll have to see. What do I decide to pick up here? It could be just crawlers if I want. That wouldn't be terrible. Otherwise, something like... I don't think I want to pick up arc lights. We'll have to see how this goes. Opponent also setting himself up on the line. For those of you who don't know, WRAITHS is always in for a an entertaining game, to say the least. Does like pushing aggressively as well, and does also very much like his wraiths, which we might just see this game. We might just see this game. I still haven't quite made up my mind what I want to get here. I do pick up the crawlers. Reason I do that is because it is good into Mustangs and Marksmen, and my opponent seems to have bought Fangs, so it will also do quite well into that. Sledges here should do a good job. Crawlers arrive at a perfect timing, meaning that it occupies those Marksmen and the Mustangs, and my army can dish out some damage. They do finally get taken out, but now the second part of my army arrives. He set up in the middle, so I had to travel a little bit, and he actually managed to pull my entire army without losing his tower. But all is well, and my sledges are doing what I was hoping they would do, and even able to level if I want to. Wow. Mass-produced Wraith shows up, and my opponent immediately picks it. This is indeed something that WRAITHS very much likes to do. Has been playing a lot of Wraith recently. So have I got to say. But I don't know if I'll be willing to take it here, because I might have something else up my sleeve. Yep, I do decide to skip. And let's see what we go for. So Wraiths are definitely very good in this type of situation. Makes a lot of sense for him to unlock it, because the one downside to the Wraith is that it is quite slow, and also it has got no range whatsoever, especially without the aerial spec. The mass-produced Wraith, only 45 base, needs to be basically into the fight immediately. So if you're both on the line, these things will perform great. And there I go. Double marksman purchase, and we immediately attack assault mode. And look at those guys. Okay, well, one already died, but the other one is doing a good job here, taking care of that marksman, and we have indeed leveled those sledges. 7,500 HP. They have recently been buffed with that 10%, and it definitely makes a difference. Able to tank here for me. And my other marksman luckily has got a front line and just takes out those 2 Wraith, no problem. Quite a good start for me. What I don't want to happen is these Wraiths to level. If they start leveling every single round, I might get into trouble. If I can keep him down, however, I'll be in a good spot. I take the sledge, I take the Rhino drop here, and my opponent does as well. Both of us have the exact same idea. For those of you who don't know, Rhinos, Vulcans, things that drop out of the sky, will do damage to the units that they fall on top of. How much damage? Well, they will basically trade hit points, so the more hit points they have, the more damage they will deal. In this case, a Rhino has got about, I believe, 17,000 hit points at level 1. And so it will take out the Wraith and then have about 4,000 hit points remaining. Although it will also take out some of these Fangs, so it might be even lower HP. But it's kind of a javelin, basically. It also can fall through shields, but of course you cannot place it anywhere on the map. And so there you see my... the Rhino took care of one of the Wraiths. Very, very nice. Excuse me. And Assault Marksman still doing a great job. I managed to get some of his missiles there. The 2 on the sides, though, do remain alive, but my Marksman still doing a good job, getting some levels. I basically extended my front line with even more of these Sledge Fang setups, and then Marksman behind. Opponent takes the anti-interference module. This is actually something that has been popping up more and more, especially as people have been playing the Wraith, because it is so vulnerable to EMP. This thing prevents it from ever being EMP'd, so that is very, very nice. Rhino drop now for my opponent. Could be problematic, we'll have to see. And I'm still undecided, it seems. I don't think I should be buying anything. I mean, Elite Rhino was perhaps a consideration to try and match his Rhino somewhere. But the rest doesn't make too much sense. I think Orbital is too expensive, and I do decide to skip. Could have taken anti-interference module on a Marksman, but I will likely be purchasing so many Marksmen that the one item is not going to make that much of a difference. And I am purchasing the at level 2, by the way. Tower here has been leveled for me because I do not want to get flanked. And if I do, at least it'll take a little bit more time to take down my tower. More Marksman being added. The whole idea of this is that you need to have a lot of Marksmen to be able to carry for you. It can be a problem though. Usually you would prefer getting something like a deployment specialist because your units are really cheap, but you're limited by the amount of deployments every round. So if you get yourself something like a deployment specialist, and then, I mean, if you get junior manufacturing, even better. But if your opponent starts building things like really, really big units like giants, you might have to add some other stuff because Marksmen, even in assault mode, still don't deal quite enough damage usually to take out things like fortresses and those kind of units. And I mean, just look at how tanky they are. 18,500 hit points, just tanking shots from that level 1 Marksman like it's nothing. And there we go. Getting some more levels. Photon emission is great, but top supply round 5 is also a consideration. Rice immediately picks it up. It will only get value in 2 rounds time though, and I do decide to pick up the Photon here. I think I was expecting him to do the same. So now I guess I will try and have to close this out within the next 3 or 4 rounds, and otherwise it'll start going, well, against me, very much against me, as my opponent will be getting those 150 additional supplies every single round. I thought the photon was nice because 1, it prevents me from being EMP'd, and 2, it just adds on top of the tankiness of my units, which is great. Even more Wraith, and he has now teched into floating artillery array, so basically doubling his amount of Wraith. But I have also taken another tech, and that is aerial specialization. Now usually you will just see normal marksmen with this tech against Wraith. It works fantastic, but hey, it can work on assault marksmen too. And especially when I'm on the line, the tankiness here helps a lot. They can actually tank quite a few shots. And yeah, that is working out just fine. And it also gives them 30 additional range whenever they are firing at air units, which is great for a unit that loses so much range, in addition for that hit point increase, splash damage, and movement speed. Now, parasitic ammo shows up. I believe in this game I asked for a handshake to my opponent. I was like, can we please just not take it? Agree to not take it, but he had already chosen this this card. It makes sense as well because it's arguably better for him than for me. For those of you who don't know, again, parasitic doesn't create crawlers if your unit with that item kills an air unit. It only works on ground units. So for a player that is mostly air-based, it definitely better, but not an insane problem for me, I don't think. I do have, again, the assault mode and that splash damage, so with enough marksmen, shouldn't be too much of a problem. Interesting, he decides to put it over here instead of the leveled Wraith. And I just pick up even more marksmen here, more level 2s. Some of them are starting to get level 3, which is great. I mean, they are getting up to 30k hit points. Looking good. And there we go, round number 6. Will this still be going in my favor? No shield still on the fangs as well. That might be something to expect at some point. Again, my marksmen are decent at clearing the fangs, but they will still have to shoot them twice, even if they hit multiple ones with the same shot, if my opponent does tech the shield upgrade there. And it does look like we have enough. So round 6 also goes into my favor. I haven't lost any hit points just yet, which is fantastic. Senior attack shows up. I mean, on round 7, it has to be a must pick. All the other ones are also not fantastic, but this late, if one of you picks attack and the other doesn't, you might find yourself in a heap of trouble. Also, our Rhino assaults are back. And this is where I decide to pick the Overlord. The reason why I do this is because of the photon tech that I run on them, and it actually pairs really, really well with Assault Marksman. I guess they are kind of similar in that sense to the Wraith, except that they are air-based unit or ground-based units and air-based units for the donuts, of course. The photon coating is fantastic because, one, it just helps with units that are tanky, which they naturally are now, and it also prevents them from being EMP'd for the first 16 seconds of combat, which is definitely one of the big weaknesses, both of Wraiths, but also of ass marks, as we call them. I decided to use my Rhino Assault, again, as a sort of missile. My opponent uses it defensively. I guess he was expecting me to drop it maybe in his backline, since he hasn't got anything over there. Also, my opponent actually went for the HE upgrade, which I don't know if that was a misclick or not. I guess trying to get rid of my chaff a bit faster. It is working though. It is working. But the loss of attack might cost him at some point. We'll see. Although right now, it is looking good for him. And it seems that finally, he will take a round off of me. And those donuts do deal damage. 300 apiece. I'm now down to 2,800. Junior shows up. A little too late, perhaps, though. Yeah, I do take senior defense here. Improved firepower control system could have been interesting as well. Just to try and one-shot one of these donuts, but the overall health has got to be worth it, especially after my opponent decided to get the high explosive ammo in return for diminishing their attack by 40%. And here I get my other overlords. Couldn't quite afford them last round, but now we will be covering the whole board in photon coating. My opponent going for wasps, it seems. Has also gotten here underground crawlers, and the fangs still without shields, but he doesn't have too many of them, so that's probably why he doesn't want to tech it. It's recently been nerfed and made more expensive, so buying this for 450 when you only have 3 packs of fangs, not really worth it. Instead goes for the wasps, which also can be shielded and kind of have a similar function. Let's see how this goes. I could definitely also tech elite marksman here at some point if I want to, but it is an extremely expensive tech upgrade. So far though, looking good. Wasps are creating a little bit of trouble. And on this side, obviously, there's still the parasitic wraith creating those annoying crawlers. Not bad. Looks good. We do have one wraith going for my tower, but again, I did level this one, so it doesn't quite go down, and my units are able to take care of it. But on this side, we have one lone wraith doing its thing, taking care of all my units, and will now take down the tower as well. But I still have got, yes, I still have that level 4 marksman over here. And even though, okay, doesn't walk into the sentry missile, wouldn't really have mattered though. It's got so many hit points it can easily tank one, and takes down the wraith. Not a big round though, only a couple hundred damage. And electromagnetic shows up. I could have gone for it. My opponent doesn't take it because obviously I have got the photon, and yet my opponent now does the same thing. So this is what I was talking about. The photon coating to prevent the EMP is something that is quite common with these comps. And I've got photon coating available again. Bit of a waste, perhaps. I should have maybe taken top supply instead of the photon, since I ended up getting it anyway as a upgrade on my overlords. But hey, at least I will be coating my overlords with the photon now as well. So small wins there, perhaps. And look at that. Elite Marksman has now been teched. Finally, I had the 800 and was willing to spend it to get that upgrade. That will mean an extra 20% attack per level. So that is going to rack up quickly, especially on these level 4, level 5 marksmen. And it also gives them some additional range, actually. 8 additional range per level, which is certainly welcomed for units with a low base range. And you can actually see, look at that, 152 meters on an assault marksman when they're shooting air units. And it just one-shots. Oh my days, that guy deals damage. One-shots the level 2 Wraith, one-shots the level 1 Overlord. Missile goes down, but all my marksmen can take it. And that will be game, minus 40, just about. This was a very fun game, probably the most fun game I had all week. I want to thank Rice as well, because I feel like every time I face him, I'm in for some fun. He really does like to play the rates now, and I mean, I respect the fact that he just lets me do this, right? Just seeing what would win, Ass Marks or Wraith. And it seems like here I was victorious. able to overcome the parasitic ammo as well. And yeah, obviously, if my opponent wanted to actually counter me, he could have done so easily by getting something like EMP Phoenixes or EMP Stormcallers, the worst of which would be EMP Hackers. That is unplayable. If you try this build and people get EMP Hackers early, just pivot, okay? Just start selling out of your marksman if you can, and transition into something else. If you're rushing, can be something like a boat rush, because at least the hackers can't shoot up. But you can't really hard force into EMP hackers. So yeah, I hope that you found this game as entertaining and fun as I did. If you liked it, please feel free to leave a thumbs up. Leave a comment down below if you tried this yourself as the Wraith player or as the Assault Marksman player. Make sure to subscribe if you want to stay up to date with all my latest content. Check me out on Twitch if you want to see me play live. And with that being said, I wish you all a very good day, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.